Alright, so I just wanted to, I haven't started a first year course yet, so I don't know anybody with iPads, any students yet. I'm doing biometry next semester. I'm not sure I'll be able to make much use of the iPads because my current exploratory stuff has not been too successful. So one of the things I hate about a lot of the first year stats units that we teach is that we teach everybody how to do statistical tests and all sorts of stuff with pocket calculators. I've worked as a statistician for 20 years and I've never done a t-test with a pocket calculator. I don't see the point of teaching students to do it with a pocket calculator. We all use computers. So I thought we could use the iPad and we could replace a lot of what we do with pocket calculators with iPads. Only there's not that many apps. So I've looked around for some stuff and I'll just show you a few things. There's one that you think might be great called data analysis. Can you see that? It only comes up sideways. That's on my screen. Data analysis doesn't do any data analysis. It's called data analysis. It fits various funny non-linear curves or one linear example to pairs of data. It doesn't do anything else statistical at all. So it's a bit of a misnomer. So I didn't find that all that useful. So I'll get out of that now. The other option that was put to me was to use things like Cloudon, to use Excel. So I probably won't do now, it doesn't take too long. But you can use Cloudon. Cloudon runs remotely off a server. You get a remote server that runs all of the Microsoft applications that you want. It is unbelievably slow. Really, really slow for doing just about anything, and really hard to enter data that way.
Yeah. And don't try using the arrow keys.
Yeah, it's really hard to do anything with. The other one that's actually got full functionality is something called StatsPad. So that's an old analysis. That will do just about everything. You look down the list on the left there, it does everything that we do in first year stats and more. Unfortunately, its primary interface, I go back to the primary interface, I don't know how to get back to. Looks like Excel, which is awful for this sort of stuff, and it's very hard. I find it very hard. You'll notice I'm using a stylus. My iPads don't like my fingers. After about 5 minutes, they stop recognising me at all. I don't exist as far as that is concerned. So I have to use a stylus. And trying to use a stylus to select any data in there is really quite hard. So I felt that somebody who had the amazing sort of new technology with touch screens and all this kind of stuff like iPads, it was a very poor choice to go back to an Excel-based interface for this kind of stuff, because that's just bad. And secondly, the other thing I don't really like about it, if I go back to graphs, wherever it was, I'll go back to the graphs, here. So let's just do a quick histogram again. Sorry. Go away keyboard, data, select that column. Yeah, I'll do the selection too. I'm supposed to be able to drag that corner down and just get it away from the probably. If you look at the histogram it does there and look at the divisions between bars, they're the worst set of divisions between bars I've ever seen in my life, and there is no way to change them. So it's, I guess I'm coming from a situation where I use a lot of R, and in R you can change everything, and if I really want to I can get the underlying source code and change that too. Whereas here I can't do anything, so I'm not real happy with that. So far I haven't been too happy. There's one, I've recently discovered one other thing that I'm starting to like more, and that's this package called, I forget what it's called now, let's go back. It's called TC Stats, and TC stands for something college. It's actually produced by a college in the US, so it's a bit more educationally focused, I think, than the other stuff, and has a bit more of an interface that makes more sense to me, where you can select a data set, and then once you've selected a data set, it starts to produce the kinds of things that you might want to do in a kind of problem-focused way. So now it's saying, are you doing a one-sample test, are you doing a two-sample test, without immediately saying this is a t-test or an f-test or some formula or some branch of statistics. It's starting to lead you through the problem. But it only does so much, so it's a bit limited in what it can do. So let's suppose we take, let's see, that's continuous value variable. Select that variable with a t-test and CL. I can't get to work out. None of it's as obvious as I would like, but it does it in a more straightforward way. But again, it doesn't allow me to change anything that's in there. And this seems to be pretty typical of iPad applications. Is what you see is all you get, right, in that sort of standard format. There is a thing called RStudio, so I don't know about those of you who know about real stats packages, but there are things like SPSS, Minitab, which universities use and nobody else, SAS. Well, none of those currently run on an iPad. There's a thing called R, which a lot of people use to do stats. It doesn't run on an iPad either, even though people have tried to make it work on Android. It won't ever run on an iPad as far as I understand, because there's some conflict between the GNU licenses and the way that and the things that Apple allow to go in the App Store. So there's a problem.
Mike, can you put the microphone, touch the microphone?
Go off.
Can you switch on off?
I think the battery's flat. I'll use this one. Yeah, so there seems to be some sort of conflict between the GNU licenses, which R comes under, and the App Store. So it's not likely that R will ever be on there. Somebody has produced an interface which will run on an iPad, but it basically runs R on a remote server. And so there are ways that we could do that. We could run our own server and run an app that runs remotely to it, but then you start to wonder whether the iPad's doing anything more than being just a portable browser, basically.
Excuse me, did you just say that R is available for Android?
They're working on it, but I don't think it is yet working. Works everywhere else. It works on Windows, Mac, everywhere else. But it's worth them pursuing the Android direction, because I don't think the licensing problems are as big. The only other thing I found that what I sort of hoped might work at one point was this thing like log me in. Oh, no, let's close the connection. Okay. So log me in allows you to run a web-based app on your machine, on your iPad, and it then goes to your laptop, and it's logged me out from my laptop now, so I have to log back in and run things there. So you can do stuff there, and I've done a few things that way, but it's not real great because the Spring real estate you get isn't very big, and so it's really hard to do anything all that useful. So we're now looking at the possibility of, I talked to Joanne Curry about maybe, I only talked to her very briefly, about maybe getting a student project to write our own applications. Unfortunately, Objective-C or whatever you have to use, I'm a Fortran programmer, so that's a bit beyond me. Hopefully some students could help do that. We haven't really followed that much yet. But again, because of this sort of feeling that, to me anyway at least, the best uses for the iPad seem to be a lot around it being a mobile browser, a very portable browser, extremely portable browser. It might just be easier to go to the web-based application again and start to write things in the web. course, this causes problems for exams and stuff like that. How do we test people when we're not teaching them how to do it with a pocket calculator anymore? I haven't got a solution to that one yet. The other thing that I was going to briefly say was there's another application a bit like the one that Lynn talked about called Explain Everything. I've used that to explain things to my daughter. And it's another one that you can do sort of math stuff and anything you like on like an electronic whiteboard, record it, and then play it back. So this one's got slides in that I'll explain stuff to my daughter in. I'm not even sure there's a movie in there, but obviously no movie in that field. That was not free either, but I found that to be one of the better ones for that kind of application if you're interested in that sort of stuff. Again, it can record things, you can export movies as MP4s and put them straight onto YouTube. So if you wanted to do little demos that way, you can do stuff as well.
You can input slides too.
You can import PowerPoints or PDFs behind it to write on top of the same way and make little videos on top of it. And then there's a button somewhere to export straight to YouTube. Down the bottom here, one of those buttons does that, but I forgot which one it is. So that's quite useful too. For those people who do, in maths, who do use tech, I'm reliably informed by Andrew Francis that there is now an application called something like Tech Writer that will run on an iPad, and you can actually create tech documents in. I wouldn't recommend it without a real keyboard, but you know, you'd have to take a Bluetooth keyboard with you, and but you could at least probably edit a tech document, make a few small changes and rebuild it. That would be doable. The old versions of that used to use a web server to run the actual tech program. Again, because of Apple's policy about not allowing you to have things that allow you to write code on the iPad. And in LaTeX you could actually write code, you can write programs with the if statements and stuff like that. So it was a problem. But now apparently they've come down with a cut down version that actually works locally on the iPad without a. That's me done. Okay?